Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Daniel Harms with the RGR Football Channel film analyst here. If you're new, make sure you hit that like, the sub, and the bell notification so you are all tuned in to on everything that everyone at the RGR channel does on a weekly basis. Today's Wednesday, that means we have another film review for you guys, and now the dust has kind of settled on the Tyreek Hill situation. We've had the additions broken down for the most part, and we're getting back into the draft. This is a player that has been linked to the Chiefs a couple different times in different areas, mock drafts, a possible pick in the first round now that the Chiefs have two first round picks. Arnold Ebiketie, Penn State defensive end, was this past year a redshirt senior. That means he spent 5 years in college. He's 6'2", about 250, so getting up to that point for a Spags defensive end, maybe he closer to about 260 plus is where they look. 34, over 34-inch arms, and he has over 10-inch hands. Those are great numbers for base looking at defensive ends. He didn't do any of the drills, the short area drills at the combine. He didn't do the 40 as well, but he did the vertical and did the broad. His explosion numbers are pretty good, 38-inch vertical for a defensive end and a 128 broad jump. Those are both very good explosion numbers in that regard. Now, the thing that was always looking at about his tape is, does that explosion translate consistently? And I think what I found doesn't necessarily match up with his testing. So let's go ahead and jump in as we can kind of see some of the inconsistencies in the film as it would. He's number 17, by the way, if you didn't know. So he is right here. Right here. Ebiketie is, like I said, definitely the prototypical defensive end for a Spags front. When he's in a 4-point stance, that's when he's going to be at his best in terms of being a better run defender, getting that explosion, getting that good first step, keeping his pad level low. You're going to see right here, he's going to come out of his stance low. This is technique right here. He's going to look to extend those arms, but his pad level is below the tackle. He comes out, explodes out forward. You want to see him start to move those legs forward a little bit. You don't want to get too overweight, which is what ends up happening, but there's the extension. But you can see that he doesn't disengage very well. The explosion out of his stance is good. He stands up the tackle. He gets eyes on that running back, and then, granted, he does get pushed by his own teammate a little bit there, but he doesn't disengage as well as you'd like to see from a defensive end in the run game. That's one of the big areas for me, is that he's not a very good run defender. You're going to see as this kind of goes along that he's not the most refined in terms of using those hands. Again, he's holding on to the tackle's arm right here, trying to do more of a reverse, what's the word for it? Hamilton, right? There, trying to keep his arms off. He finds him, and unfortunately his teammate does run into his back of his leg a little bit, but still, he doesn't disengage well. It's not great, and it shows right here. Even if he's not getting hit, he's not disengaging. He's not doing anything about this. He's just letting himself kind of stick with the tackle. I get to an extent, but Hassan Haskins isn't beating you outside, so go after him. Disengage, get after that running back, and you'll make more plays than you end up missing in that regard with the less athletic running backs. In a 3-point stance here, I'm glad he doesn't. He does all three stances. He does a 2-point, he does a 3-point, he does a 4-point. Majority, I believe, comes out of a 2, but you're seeing a good amount of 4-point to start this review off with. And this is where I think one of his best attributes in the run game is. He does have some pop in his hands. Again, coming out of that 4-point stance, he has the best explosion metrics. He looks the best out of a 4-point stance, in my opinion. But he has a little bit of pop. He moves that tackle off and then finally gets inside for the tackle in the run game. He's, like I said, not going to be the best run defender for a guy his size. He doesn't have that functional strength to continuously. And really, he's got room to add more muscle. He's got the arm length. He's got the frame, 6'2", 34-inch arms, 250. Like to see a little bit heavier. But right there, he moves, pop inside, rips underneath, and gets to the tackle. Excuse me. That's what you want to see. It's better than most of his run game clips he can start putting that together a little bit with a little bit of that pop, look for the football, locate it, and actually find it. I think he's going to develop into a fine run defender in the NFL. And here's more of the here's some 2-point stance for you as a pass rusher. Ebiketie has some inconsistencies as a pass rusher as well. Doesn't have a ton of moves and does find issues connecting them. He's not the best at stringing them. His pass rush plan is unrefined. It's not what you want it to be, especially for a guy who's being touted possibly as a first-round pick. I would even be a little hesitant to take him at 50. But if he's on the board at 50, I think that makes a lot of sense for their needs, especially if they don't go defensive end early. This is one of those plays where he does put it together. He's the majority of his pass rush snaps, he likes to go around the outside. So he finally figures out, okay, I've set up this tackle to overcorrect to the outside. So what do I need to do? I'm going to set him up again to the outside. Right here. Push that outside a little bit. With 54 coming down here, and you have Ebiketie setting this up, he's going to be able to bounce back inside here and kind of slap and swim around or rip. I don't remember exactly what it is he's about to do. But there's a nice big gap here. He understands that, sees it, takes advantage of it. Yeah, there's the swim right there. And this is always a good swim move. When you have that contact, it's much like the spin move in this sense that you say they talk about the ice pick a lot. You want to make contact so you, one, know where he is, and that you can kind of push yourself off in an example. So he's going to do a good job of swim here, make contact with the back, so you know you've cleared him, and then you start and close. This is when he puts it all together. It's all there. He does have some really nice physical tools in the pass rush department. The big issue for me is that he too often goes outside. And when you go outside, you lend yourself to being pushed around the pocket. And for a guy who is not the bendiest, he doesn't even corner very well. It ends up impacting your pass rush production and your ability to really impact the passing game of the offense. So here, you're going to see it. Just doesn't corner very well. He has poor balance off that little hop jump that he has, and he actually turns the tackle. Everything you want to do. Right here, you need to rip under and then corner. If you can rip under and corner and get to that quarterback, force him to throw the ball a little bit early, you can actually impact the passing game a little bit. But instead, he gets pushed off and pushed out of the way. I mean, fortunately, he misses that throw, but it's not ideal. You need to see a little bit more bend. You need to see a bit better cornering. Guys like Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson is not the best bendy guy in the world. He's very kind of rigid, to be honest with you, but his first step improved so much in his cornering, understanding where that tackle's turned and shoving your inside shoulder underneath him and getting the corner is he's a much better athlete in that regard, being able to do that. And Ebiketie struggles to find that corner, like right here. Get in there. Go. You have the position now. When you have that tackle turn, you can go. He's turning all the way. There's no reason that he should be being pushed past the point right there. It's a problem, and it's one of the areas that I really did notice in his pass rush. He tends to get too far outside, always trying to rush that edge, but he doesn't have the natural bend or the cornering ability to consistently win in that department. So that's something you need to refine, especially if you're going to be a guy who rushes more to the outside. Get more of those inside counters. We just saw it against Auburn. He has the ability to do it. Got to see a little bit more development in that plan. This is the biggest problem I have with him in the run game, by the way. It's bad. You've got him down here. Now, this was when I was in high school, but I see it a lot in the NFL too. As a defensive end, you are taught, get down the line. When you have a puller, you take your inside shoulder and you jam it into their chest and try to set that edge. Make it so that running back can't get outside. What does Ebiketie do here? He turns, now his back's to the hole, and he gets completely washed out. This is one of the biggest reasons I don't like him as a run defender, because too often he wrong shoulders these types of plays. Even on normal run situations, he tries to cut inside and then he gets washed out of the play completely, gets thrown on his butt, and he gets out of the run game. It's a bad technical error, and it's continuously all over his film. I don't like it. He's lucky that this is a very good Penn State defense. They rally to the football, and it's not a more elusive running back, a guy who can really hit holes, because this, can turn really quickly, as also Michigan. So you're kind of expecting the run here. They can turn that into a touchdown if it's a better back and a little bit better of a team that's more diverse in the pass run department. You take that on with the wrong shoulder, you can turn that into a big gain. And that's the big problem with his run defense, is that he too often does things that are technically unsound and technically wrong, and he gets washed out of holes, washed out of the edges when you're supposed to be setting a firm edge. You can't be doing this kind of stuff. Even if you have help with 12 and 1, the best thing you can do is take that on, drive your inside shoulder into the blocker. Like right here, if you had a puller, if he's right here, if you shove that inside shoulder right into him, there's no cutback lane here. And then you've also given yourself the opportunity to set the edge. If they're not flowing, this is going to be a big game. Again, luckily they are flowing. It's Michigan, it's that run-heavy team, backed inside their 10, so they're going to run the ball. But the wrong shoulder stuff is a very bad thing, and he needs to get that fixed. I'm not sure he has the functional strength to use that inside shoulder to win in that regard. So we'll have to kind of see how it goes. But this is really where Ebiketie shines, in my opinion. This is probably my favorite play of his that I watched in the three different games that I did. Effort. He is a high energy effort player. He's not going to be the most athletic. He's not going to be the most gifted. And actually, this is the fourth time that he was attempted to be cut blocked by the Auburn offensive line, but he finally figured it out, and it does take him a little bit too long to adjust. But again, he finally did. He's not a bad athlete at all. I think he would have been a much higher on the athletic matrix, actually shown up on the matrix had he done his testing. But he's not a bad athlete. Finally realizes what's happening, tries to make the block on the play, but then he goes and he makes the tackle. He's not going to give up on the play. That's one of the things that I really like about Ebiketie, is that he's going to try and make whatever he can happen. He's going to get to the quarterback. Eventually, if he can find a way, he's going to try to find a way to impact the pass. He's going to try to find a way to get back to the ball carrier. Always hustling, finding a way to make something happen. Right there. Finally, that's a good technique too. Slide him away, jump for the ball, and then go make the tackle. He was really kind of a menace in the Michigan game, and tons of pressures, but he didn't have a ton of conversions on those pressures. Not the lack of trying. He does have a good bull rush. And when he uses the inside counters, he's fine. Like, it actually works. It shows up well on tape. And again, here's that overcorrection from the tackle. He uses it to his advantage. Finally, kind of takes that long arm and shoves it in the center or of the chest of the tackle, and then he starts to work inside. He can be an impactful player. I just think he's got a lot of things to clean up. If you find a way to get him to corner at the NFL level, it's not going to get any easier at the NFL. But if you can find a way to have him learn to corner a little bit better, these inside counters and these inside hand motions he's going to have to be able to press these tackles up and bench press them a little bit are all going to start to impact him in a more positive way. Again, coming out of that 4-point stance, I think, is imperative to him being effective in the NFL. He does have better explosion. He can use more speed to power that way. And the long arms are going to help him a lot. He's got those 34.25-inch arms. He's got some pop. You can see it here. He just takes his left arm and just shoves it right in there, pushes him back, and then forces an incompletion. So tools, he's a toolsy guy. I think he does have some work to do in figuring out more counters and being a much more refined pass rusher. Clearly has some technical issues in the run game, but every once in a while you see him put it together, locate the football in both the passing game and the run game, and he can make it work. That's why you see these flashes and people trying to project him a little bit higher. You see that a lot in this draft class because players because the draft class it's a down year for that. So they look for these highs and they say, look, what he can do when he puts it together. The problem is the consistency to do so. Ebiketie is not a first round player. He's not even a little bit, in my opinion. 50, I think that's a okay position for him. I'd be way more comfortable at 64 taking an Arnold Ebiketie, just because the tools are there, and he does have a little bit more refined pass rush plan than like a Joshua Kendo, for example. Kendo has more upside than Ebiketie, in my personal opinion, because he has more raw, natural athleticism than Ebiketie does. So there's a lot of stuff to really unpack and unravel with Ebiketie. His teammate, number 40, Jesse Lawqueta, I think it's Lawqueta, excuse me, is another guy I would target on this team specifically. I think that both of them, in the right area, can add some things to your team. Lawqueta would be an option more in the probably fourth round, for somebody who can come in and be a multifaceted Sam linebacker. And Ebiketie, if you can get him maybe at 50, you kind of have to take that plunge depending on the edge board, or if you haven't taken an edge at 30 or 29. Ebiketie is going to be a good option in the second round. Tools are there. The typical Spags frame is there. He's going to have to bulk up a little bit to be better against the run and use more of that speed to power. When he gets off and in his 4-point stance, it's effective, it's impactful. He can bench press. He can do a lot of very good pass rush things with the strength. Now you got to work on that speed. You got to work on your cornering a little bit, but he has some tools. So while I'm not sold on him being a first-round pick, I do think in the second round he would be a good value type of defensive end that can come in and start maybe learn from a guy like Mike Dana to be a much better run-first defensive end, use that inside shoulder, and really start to impact as a run defender, because, again, that length is going to be so helpful in the pass rush department. This was another film review for you guys. We're inching closer and closer to the NFL draft, and I will be hosting it myself this year. Going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have some guests. Ryan will pop in and out as it goes along. But watch out for more of these film reviews. In the comment section, give me the film review of someone you want next as a possible second or third round pick. Somebody that maybe I haven't focused on a lot that you think would make an impact as a value player on day 2. I want that in the comments. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for Ryan and Seth on the Chief in the North, and then we're going to continue to have more content as the week unfolds and the draft gets closer. Make sure you guys follow, hit that sub, the like, and the bell notification, and please have a great day.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.